here. Steve, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for
Would you
having
like
me.
to sit with me and have a quick conversation?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Steve, I got to say, man, it's exciting to have you sitting here with me, and not only for the fact that we've gotten to know each other through the past years or so, but also because you're running for candidate in Riverside County. How important is that for you?
It's extremely important. Riverside County, the Coachella Valley, the 4th District, it's a large district. And each have their unique attributes, successes, challenges, right? For those who don't know, the 4th District Supervisor oversees basically from Desert Hot Springs to Blythe and up the mountain of 74 to Idlewild. So as you know, each unique perspectives, each unique issues, but together we're one desert, one community, right? One Coachella Valley. We hear it all the time. Different organizations use that. We use it in government talk all the time, because although we're unique, we're bonded together by geographically, our valley, right? And to our friends in Blythe, our desert community. So while we have challenges that are unique, we have challenges that are similar. And it's the same thing, right? Homelessness, public safety, transportation, innovation, and looking to the future, right? And you need somebody who understands what's happening now, and you need somebody who understands the trends, right? What's happening with technology? What's the future of the desert of Riverside County and California going to look like in 20, 30, 40 years from now?
I agree.
So you need somebody with that vision, right? Somebody who's proactive and not reactive. And that's basically what I'm bringing to the table.
And Steve, can I ask you, I always ask this of my guests, and I love to get to explore a bit of your past. We want to know how prepared you are for not just that role, but everything that's led up to it.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up?
Yeah. So to your question about what has led me to it and preparing for this role, yes, I grew up in New Jersey, and I enlisted in the Marine Corps when I was 19, which is how I ended up in California. So I did 8 years in the Marine Corps and ended up here in beautiful California. The truth is, I was done shoveling snow, and I was done with traffic, and I was done with crime, and having been stationed in 29 Palms and then Camp Pendleton, I said, you know what? The Coachella Valley looks like a good place to check. Let me check it out, right? And it grew on me, right? As I got involved, when I came back from Iraq, I said, how can I get back? How can I get involved in the community? How can I give back? So I started working on one nonprofit, right? Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And, and people that have ever worked in a nonprofit know that once you volunteer in one nonprofit, they all come out.
They all know, yeah.
All of them. So next thing you know, I'm on the board for CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates.
Fantastic.
And so on, right? Helping nonprofits here and there. And through that, I started becoming friends with the local elected officials and the quote unquote movers and shakers of the town, right?
Correct.
And really understanding what the Coachella Valley is and where is this place that I moved to, right? Where is this place that I decided to call home? So I had a vested interest in ensuring that, okay, if this is going to be my house, my home, I want to make sure that it's well served and that I'm doing my part to give back to her.
So in doing your part, there are 9 cities in the Coachella Valley, and under one of those cities, you serve as a councilman. Tell me about what took you to make that decision to take that jump into that public figure, not just the public figure, but everything that you do for the city and the community. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was really involved with the chambers, right? Like a lot of people who run for office, the building industry, different nonprofit worlds. So I had a really good eye opener to how, and I used to work for a state legislator. So I understood how state, county, local governments work. And I knew, I'm well qualified. I bring something to the table. There just happened to be a vacancy on the city council at the time. And so I said, this is the opportunity to do it. Normally when people run, they're saying, things are going bad. I want to unseat this incumbent or whatever. Mine was the opposite. Mine was, things are going great in La Quinta.
Right.
There happens to be a vacancy. I know I can fill that role. This is my opportunity to run. And I have been involved, not just in La Quinta, but the entire Coachella Valley, up in the mountains in Blythe. I've been very active in the community leading up to that anyway. So I wasn't campaigning at the last minute for the seat. In essence, I guess I've been campaigning since I decided to
So
make the
full
Coachella
time.
Valley home.
Right.
And I say campaigning not in the normal sense, but I've been active in the community because I love the community. I love to give back. I love to meet people. I love interacting with people. I love to learn from people. And so when the vacancy came up on the city council in Quinta, I decided to run, and it was at the last minute.
Wow.
Everybody else had pull papers and got endorsements and this and that, and it was at the last minute. I said, you know what, this is the opportunity. I felt it, and I got to tell you, I love it. And because of that,
Great.
I get to work with the other 9 cities. I get to work with our cities in Blythe, unincorporated areas. I get to work with cities throughout the entire state because of state boards that I sit on, regional boards that I sit on, Coachella Valley Association of Governments, which is responsible for funding transportation in Southern California, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
getting money to the city of Indio for Moreau Street, right? Getting money to the city of Palm Desert. I'm one of 2 council members that sits on the commission called the Riverside County Airport Land Use Commission, and we regulate development around airports in Riverside County.
Okay, that's huge.
And then the other one is the Riverside County Local Agency Formation Commission. I'm one of only 2 council members all the county.
Wow.
Our responsibility is for cities expanding, spheres of influence, cities that are failing, dissolving them, merging, creating new cities, creating special districts, merging special districts, right? Expanding special districts. And so it's a really powerful agency that has oversight over a lot of government agencies. And I take that responsibility to the heart. You know, the people entrust me with that authority, and it's my duty and responsibility to ensure that I serve them properly.
Before I get into some set of questions that we're able to get together from our local community leaders across Riverside County, I'd like to ask you just this one extra question about something in your past. You served as a Marine. You never stopped serving as a Marine. Once a Marine, you're always a Marine. Thank you for your service. We'd like to ask you, what did you take from there that you apply to your life on a regular basis that will continue to be there moving forward?
Yeah. So when I first enlisted in the Marine Corps, I knew since I was a kid that I wanted to be a Marine. Maybe it was too much G.I. Joe or watching the A-Team or MacGyver, whatever.
Yeah.
All combination of all of that. I wanted to do that. And so when people say, you know, when did you know you want to be a Marine? I'm like, since I was a kid, right? And obviously, as a kid, you don't know what it's like until you get in there. And what I experienced is a brotherhood, right? A sisterhood, a family, and that esprit de corps, that you'll do anything for your brother and sister to the left and right of you. Leadership traits, right? You learn to lead not by barking orders, but going first, right? Leading the way. You know, when I first went to Iraq, you know, I in my mind, I knew, okay, I can't have my junior Marines go into a building first. Well, I've never been into a building first in a combat zone, right? So I would always go first, because that was my first time as well, right? So I learned that leaders, you know, that they lead from the front, not from the back, right? And I carry that forward in city council and in my other roles. I can't ask my residents to do something that I wouldn't do for myself, right? That I wouldn't do as well. So leadership traits are a huge thing. And it just reinforces, you know, the love that I have for my country and my community.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned, we had set a set of questions to both candidates. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
So I would like to go over those questions with you, hear some of your answers. All of these are very important to all of us. The leaders across Riverside County that got together are not in special interest of anybody, but they just want the better of the community. And all the questions were compiled from a group of them. And these questions are the ones that came up the most from all the ones that we were asked. So I'd like to ask you a few things. I'm going to start with this one. Homelessness continues to grow in many communities across Riverside County. What would you do as county supervisor to address homelessness and improve services for those in need?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got to say about the questions that were submitted. Great questions, by the way. So the members of the community, they are in tune to what's happening in the Coachella Valley. And there are issues in the Coachella Valley, Blythe, up in the mountain deserts, the county in general. Mental health is a huge part of homelessness. Substance abuse, right? It's a huge part. We need to ensure that the county allocates the proper resources for mental health services. The other problem is when you're in an addiction mode, whether it's drugs or alcohol, you sometimes don't realize you need help, right? And I think anyone who's ever had a friend or family member addicted to anything can attest to the fact that they themselves don't know that they need help, right? And that's the hard part, right? But the other part of homelessness is somebody just down on their luck, right? You can't lump them together, right? You can't, it's not a one size fit all. So somebody's company went out of business. Someone got laid off because of the economy, right? Sometimes some people just need a hand up, right? Not necessarily a hand out. They just need temporary relief to get back on their feet because they want to get back on their feet, right? But they recognize, hey, we have a financial hardship right now. I need a little bit of help, and that's where county comes in, right? Job placements, job training, right? Relocation, temporary assistance and housing, animals, right? A lot of these people, they have pets.
Yes.
And often they don't want to go to a shelter because they can't have their pets with them.
Some communities in the eastern Coachella Valley, it could be beyond, still lack economic opportunities and investment. What would you do to bring more jobs and business development to these communities?
Yeah. So to answer that question, I have to answer it with another answer, and that is the answer of energy and power infrastructure, right? And because of that, all development and growth in the Eastern Coachella Valley has come to a halt. When I first started running for office, I started saying, hey guys, to the other city council members, hey, answer the supervisor, anybody who would listen really is, hey, our infrastructure is aging, the Coachella Valley is growing. We need to invest in new transformers, new substations, new power lines, right? Because we can't go any further. Center Valley, we're outgrown already. And now we fast forward 8-10 years later, and finally the cities and the county realize, hey, we have an issue here. And that issue is the lack of power. And it's the lack of being able to get a will serve that actually will provide you with power. And in order for an investor to get the power they need, they have to pony up $30-40 million for a substation. Well, if your development only costs $10 million and they're asking you to put $40 million, you're not going to develop because you don't have $50 million, right? Same thing for water, right? And the only way to do it is regionally. We have to have all the cities and the county along with CVWD together to solve the energy issue in the Eastern Coachella Valley. Then you'll see the growth.
Residents expect strong county services, but also responsible spending. How would you ensure Riverside County maintains a balanced budget while continuing to provide essential services?
The one thing we always need to remember, and I remember this as a council member, is the revenue that the cities, the county have, that is a loan from the taxpayers. And it's a loan saying, I'm going to lend you my money that I earned hard, I worked hard for. But in return, I want roads, I want bridges, right? I want functioning school districts. I want public safety. When I pick up the phone and call a cop or firefighter, I want them there, right? And so fiscal responsibility is huge. Balancing the budget is huge. We need to ask ourselves a question. Whenever we're deciding on a program or a project or a grant that we're providing, we have to say, okay, this is the taxpayers' money. Is it within the county's jurisdiction or authority to implement what we're going to spend this money on? If it is this a need or a want, right? And is it solving an issue that the county is responsible for? What kind of metrics are we using to say, hey, taxpayers, your return on investment is working, right? So we need to be able to answer all those questions. I do it in my city with my colleagues, and thanks to the past council members who provided me with a great running operating city. And it's my fiscal responsibility to have maintained that. And that's what I bring to the county.
You had mentioned something about public safety.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring up a question about it. So public safety remains a major concern for many residents across the county. What steps would you take to ensure law enforcement and emergency services are properly supported?
Yeah. About 2,000 years ago, Cicero even said the government's responsibility is to protect its people. And that weighs true today. Our founders knew it, and supervisors in the past have known it, and elected officials from all the cities know it. My number one responsibility, first and foremost, is public safety, because without that, you're not going to buy a house in my city or my county. You're not going to open up your business here. You're not going to send your kids to school here. developers, investors won't want to spend their money in your community. So public safety is first. But public safety, it's not just, hey, let's hire more cops and firefighters, right? That's easy. But it goes beyond that. It's oversight. It's also ensuring that our cops, our firefighters, anybody in the first responder world has the adequate training. And not just out of the academy. The academy shouldn't be the only time somebody has training, right? That should be the first time they have training. But technology changes, tactics change, crimes change, criminals adapt, right? Anybody in law enforcement or anyone who's ever been a victim of a crime know that, hey, these criminals, as dumb as they are, they're smart because they adapt. They say, okay, these are the laws. This is what the technology that exists. How can I circumvent that, right? So we need to ensure that our cops, our firefighters, anybody in the public safety world has up-to-date technology, equipment, and training. Because in the end, we want our public safety folks to go home to their families.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you some engaging questions in regards to the community and the situation at large, maybe bigger than the Riverside County, but it's always fair to ask these to any county that's dealing with these types of issues. I'd like to ask you a very strong question, Steve. Many immigrant families in the county say they are afraid to go shopping, attend events, or gather at community and religious locations. This fear is affecting local businesses and community life. What can the county do to restore confidence and help residents feel safe participating in the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I always talk about in government is each government entity needs to stay in their own lane, right? And because once you get out of that lane, that's when you get in trouble, right? So obviously, immigration is at the responsibility and the oversight of the federal government, right? And that's why we have a Congress. That's what we have congressmen for, right? Here in the Coachella Valley and Blythe and up to Idlewild, we have two right now. We have Congressman Calvert and Congressman Ruiz, right? And they are responsible for working together, drafting laws that are responsible and solve the issue, right? And then we have the executive branch and we have our state senators. So that's where that happens. At the state level, there might be some here and there, but at the county level, we literally have no jurisdiction over anything that happens with immigration. And I know the county, maybe like 6 months ago, they passed, in essence, a sanctuary county law or a resolution, I should say, without using the word sanctuary county. And I bring that up not because it's, the county trying to get involved with immigration or, it gave people a false sense of security by doing that. People thought, okay, we're a sanctuary county in essence. I can do what I want, right? But that's not the way the law works. And in government, when I legislate, when I draft policies, my emotions, it drives me. But the policy and the law is what I implement, right? And that's what I have to follow. So, yeah, we work with our federal government agencies. If there's a bank robbery, if there's a kidnapping, right? Local law enforcement and the government to work with the federal agencies. But we don't actively go out and lead federal investigations, right? That's what the federal government is for, right? So the same thing with immigration is where it's kind of the long way of answering your question is that the federal government, they're the ones responsible for the investigations, enforcing, and when they need help for backup or whatever, and they're still peace officers, right? They're still law enforcement officers. And if they request help, then it's legitimate. But the county's not out holding its own investigations if someone is here legally or not, right? That's not within the jurisdiction of the county. And that's not where the resources are going to go, right? That's, and to that extent, that's not even where the state's jurisdiction is, right? It's really the federal government. If the federal government wants to hold its investigations for its jurisdiction, there's nothing we can do about it. But at the county level, it's not where we're spending our resources. We're spending our resources when you get out of your house and go take your kids to school. Did you run over a pothole? Right?
No.
Did that light take too long to change? Right? Is there traffic on the intersection, on ramp and off ramp? Right? This is where the county is responsible for. The veteran that's getting out and relocating to the community. Is there a veteran services officer to help him or her adjust to society here? Right? Is that senior getting their food? Are we working with Meals on Wheels to ensure the senior is getting food? Right? That's where the county resources should be going. So not on immigration, not on federal issues. That's not what it, irregardless of where people's personal beliefs are, when you think of it logically, that's not within our responsibility. Just like the cities, it's not within their jurisdictions either.
So Riverside County continues to grow rapidly. You already explained
Yeah.
a bit of that, especially in the Coachella Valley. What is your vision for the future of this region and how the county should support its growth?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite questions because I like to think outside of the box. I often talk about aviation as a hub for our Coachella Valley. And by that, I'm not just talking about private pilot licenses, right? I'm talking about having trade schools out here to teach our kids and adults the aviation world because, right now we talk about flights from California to New Jersey, right? Or America to Europe. But the truth is, a leader should be thinking Earth to the moon, Earth to Mars, right? And we need to start, we need to ensure that our kids are exposed to what their future is going to look like. AI, right? Artificial intelligence, aviation, space travel. 10 years ago, I remember when I first came on board as a city council member, one of the CEOs for the chamber posed the same question. He's like, where do you see the future of the Coachella Valley and everything else? And I told him space. And look at us now, right? We just
saw them
launched
as
and came back, right?
come back.
At Thermal Airport, we have a prime opportunity right there at the county airport to have a trade school, work with College of the Desert, work with our school districts. And the future of the Coachella Valley, it's not just the county leading it. You must have every single city working with the county to answer that question. What is the future of the Coachella Valley? It's the special districts, right? College of the Desert, our local school districts, the three of them out here, right? All of them working together. But an aeronautics trade school, right? Pilots, mechanics, all of the infrastructure that comes with that, all of the gas tax that comes back. And first part we need is a tower at Thermal Airport. With that, and the farmers out in the East Valley have been asking for this. They want to import, export their goods.
Yes.
Anybody who's been to the East Valley has seen the thermal racetrack, the equestrians that we have out there. Right now, if a horse flies into California, they have to go to LAX.
Yes.
And then they have to transport them via vehicle over here. Anybody that's been on horses or has been around animals know that is a hard drive for an animal.
Correct.
So why can't we quarantine them at the Thermal Airport? But we need a tower and we need a customs for that. Once you get that, I got to tell you, that Eastern Coachella Valley is going to grow. It's going to provide the jobs. It's going to provide, and it's not just 4-year degrees. When I grew up, I remember my dad saying, "Oh, you need to go to college, this and that." I'm like, trade schools, right? These are, working with your hands, mechanics, air conditioning. I don't know about you. It gets to be 120 degrees out here.
Oh, yeah.
And when your AC goes out, and it's going to go out because it always goes out.
Yes.
Who are you going to call? Right? You're going to call the HVAC tech.
That's right.
And these are high-paying, skilled jobs.
Yeah.
So plumbers, electricians, construction people, aviation. This is what we need more of. This is where we need to invest our resources. And if we can provide the skilled workforce, the companies will come responsibly.
It's incredible. Okay, guys, this has been quite an incredible interview with candidate Steve Sanchez for Riverside County Supervisor District 4.
District 4.
I'd like to just ask you to take a moment and speak to our audience and everyone watching across Riverside County and beyond. What message would you like them to know that they probably didn't get to hear from the questions to the answers? Any message from you? Any type of guide you can provide into to letting us know how we can better understand who you are and the person that you want to be, the position that you want to get, and why should we vote for you if you must?
Right?
Yeah.
I appreciate you allowing me to be on here and speaking to your viewers. I'm a simple guy. Yeah, I'm a guy that grew up in Jersey and lives the American dream, right? I serve my country proudly. It's one of the best, actually one of the funnest things I've done in my life is be a U.S. Marine. As a candidate for the 4th District, I'm asking for your vote because, one, I love my community. I'm well qualified. And I'm kind of already doing the job. My role as a city councilman has afforded me the opportunity to sit on regional boards that have a day-to-day impact on everyone's life right now, from transportation to even healthcare. Often, I find myself as the Quinta councilman bringing up issues to the county that the county should be bringing up, right? And people often say, why is the Quinta councilman Steve Sanchez always bringing up the issues about animal services, right? Why did it take the Quinta councilman Steve Sanchez to bring up no-kill shelters at the Riverside County, right? Why did it take the Quinta councilman Steve Sanchez to bring up the issue about the Veteran Services Office closing in Indio, moving to Desert Hot Springs? All you did was transfer the problem from one side of the valley to the other. And it took me to say, hey, county, instead of shifting from one to the other, why not just have two? Open on bookends. Why not, to that fact, we should have one in Blythe or a mobile one at least to go to Blythe. Why does it always take the Quinta City Councilman Steve Sanchez to bring up the issues about energy infrastructure, and the Eastern Coachella Valley, right? Why does it always take the Quinta Councilman Steve Sanchez to bring these up? Now, here's the thing. You may not always agree with my policies, but I'm always open to listening to your views. Because the one thing I know about government and life, I don't know everything. I don't act like I know everything, but I'm always willing to learn. I love learning. I love hearing people's perspectives. And in the end, I may take someone's advice. I may not. But I'm never going to pander to someone. I'm never going to tell you what you want to hear just so I can get your approval, just so I can get your vote. I'll take your input in. I'll weigh it against what the facts is that I know and how I view what government's role is. And often we'll probably come to a middle ground, right? We'll come to a consensus on something. But what you see is what you get. And I'm not going to lie to you. And I'll always hold government accountable, because the one thing I don't tolerate is corruption and conflicts of interest. And we've seen a lot of that in county and in state and local governments. We've all experienced it. We've all seen it, right? I'm not going to give bids or contracts to my friends, right? Just because I know them. There's a saying that one of the platoon sergeants in my old unit used to say is, a Marine on duty has no friends. And that holds true as an elected official. Just because I know you, that's great. We're friends, that's great. But that doesn't mean I'll allow you to be corrupt. I won't allow you to have conflicts of interest. And I won't do favors for you using taxpayers' money. So again, I'm Steve Sanchez. I am running for County Supervisor for the 4th District. And I hope I've earned your trust, and I hope I've earned your vote. So thank you. And thank you, Jose.
Well, thank you, Steve, again for being here. And guys, I just want to say, if you haven't had a chance to, Steve, what's a good way to reach out to you or to see your campaign? What are good handles that we can reach out to?
My website, Steve Sanchez, CA for California.com.
Fantastic. Guys, there you have it. It's been a fantastic bit and part for Volume 1 of Beyond Politics with Steve Sanchez, candidate for Riverside County Supervisor District 4. Thank you, Steve, for being here, and thank you for everybody that's a part of this. If you're listening to us this morning, have a great day. If you're listening to us tonight, have a great night. Bye-bye.